Yes.
The last time we spoke,
Yeah.
you wasn't sure. You have been almost as certain now as to what's happening. What's happening?
Okay, you know that this is becoming a very volatile matter. I saw the leader of the opposition held a press conference last Saturday on this matter. Now, I said this is the matter we have to probe to know how we had that big story in the Kaicho News and the prominence it got in terms of where it was placed in the paper. And, you know, who are better than you people in the media to probe these matters and to follow up these matters. I saw the ex-chairman of GCOM on the meeting office. He said, look, what is the media doing? They ought to probe where those what you call fake statement of poll appear from. So take into account the whole atmosphere here and so on. I think you got to help. The media in Guyana is active. A lot of good people in the media who's trying to get at the bottom of a story and try to balance it. So you need to do some more work. But any specific question,
you're a long time union man. Yes. Comparatively, maybe you've probably been around more than enough of the guys.
Yeah, I am in GAWU since 1975, when GAWU was not yet recognized as the representative organization of the sugar workers. It was a long battle for that day to come. 28 years the GAWU was struggling to be recognized. At last it came, and it happened in February 1976, but I joined the union before, quite young then. And the then General Secretary Maki Hamid wooed me into the union work, and I liked it. I find it a way to serve my fellow people. Some people choose the religious road, some people choose other roads, and I found that this was the right road for me.
People are saying...
And let me tell you this, I refused twice to become Minister of Labour. One by Dr. Cherry Jagan in 1992, and one by Mr. Donald Ramutar when he became president. Because I am so much part of the workers. I understand the culture, I understand the issue. We fought, we improved things, we improved a number of benefits we could talk about. So there was success, but incrementally, as the industry does better and it can pay more. I am accused on the one hand that we do all kind of bad things to make the industry suffer. It seems to be that we are not doing the right things to stop the estate from closing, to get the workers their severance pay. The Chamber of Commerce joined with us. The opposition parties was in the battle to don't close. The media, many of the media personnel was not sympathetic to the government position. Well, they said, look, we understand there's a lot of money pumped into the sugar industry. The point is, how much more you will have to spend by not having the sugar industry is a big question in terms of crime, in terms of suicide, in terms of sickness, where the hospital have to carry more patients, in terms of education for the workers' children. There is a question. And we always question the management, where that man came back, the CEO of Gaisuko, Mr. Hanuman. He got 33 billion, and up to last year, November, he misinformed the Minister of Finance to go and say that the production of sugar will be 152 when he made only 138, and got 33 billion from June 2015 to the ending of last year. Cannot show the production. And the problem with Gaisuko, the major problem, all the resources you have, the human resources, the machines, fresh water, land, you are not producing the sugar per hectare. The farmer is producing an average of 75. Gaisuko average is 54. The same techniques the farmers use. The farmers even renting lands from IFLOT and doing better aside of the Gaisuko thing. It has to do not with any rocket science, it has to do with the management. And that call of us and that charge of us had been consistent for years, not from May 2015. We had been consistent. Nobody can say we were speaking a different language for 23 years. We had our ups and downs. You know, our union was threatened with derecognition. Our union had protests outside the Ministry of Finance, outside the Bank of Guyana, when Mr. Govind Ganga was appointed the chairman of an imposed tribunal to settle the wages issue in 1 year. And he awarded us 2%, while the public servants got 6%. And we show why you must give the workers more. They were productive workers. And we were not opposed to the public servants get 6, even they get more. We were not opposed to that. We never take any position in our newspaper against any worker, any union. And one can go back and look at our record.
You remember what was your take when the 2 estates were closed under the former administration? Did you protest that?
All right, somebody got it wrong. Let me explain. Under the PPP civic government for 23 years, only one estate was closed, and that is Enmore, and in fact, partly Enmore factory. It is wrong. After the death of Mr. Bonham, under the presidency of Hoyt, Diamond Estate was closed, and the Lenora Estate was closed. After the closure of Diamond Estate, part of the cultivation was kept functional, and about 350 workers were employed in that part of the cultivation. The factory at Enmore was grinding the cane from the factory at LBI, grinding the cane at LBI factory, and the cane from Diamond that the workers were taking. The government pointed out that they're going to close the factory because it was underutilized. We disagree. We have our combat paper to show you that we disagree. But we were faced with the facts that the factory was not getting enough canes. The government offered the workers, and all of them that were displaced from the factory at the Enmore factory, at the new sugar plant where they do the enhanced sugar, and they set up, enlarged the workshop at LBI, where some of the factory workers were absorbed. So you had no displacement of the LBI factory workers. Who were displaced was the Diamond factory workers, who argued that they are not going to take up work at Enmore. It is more than 10 miles away. Under our argument, we stuck to that position. We argued with Gaisuko, and Gaisuko held on that they have to go and take up work at Diamond. We did not relent. We took the matter to court. And Ramjatan, who claimed he took the matter to court, he did not. In fact, he did find in the law where it pointed out that you cannot send the workers more than 10 miles away. He talked to me after we filed the matter in court, and he said, man, he couldn't find this thing, how we find it. And I mentioned that the other day in Parliament to him, that you are taking credit incorrectly, Komal, and you shouldn't do that. I reminded him, so I corrected that. Now, after we took the matter to court, some months after, Gaisuko intervened and said that they found the money to pay the workers, the 350 cane cutters, mainly cane cutters from living in the diamond area. So they got to pay, and then they were offered work at wheels. So most of them, 90% of them from East Bank went over at wheels and worked, as they used to be in many years ago.
Okay. Now, this...
So I just want to make it clear. There was no two-estate closure. And it is not true that Diamond was closed by the PPP government. How do some what called restructuring, and President Hoy then. And that's it. That's the history, that is the fact.
Okay. Now we have a situation here where you are a member of parliament on the PPC side, and yet your position here at the union is being challenged. How are you straddling the fence?
Well, I won't say that. There are many political parties in the world, and there is a school of thought that support that unions should also have influence in the political quarters. And if you go in the Caribbean, in Grenada, in some of those islands, in Trinidad, you found unionists in political parties and do represent their union, although they are do represent the party that belongs to in the parliament. Until Trinidad and Tobago now, you had Cherry Jagan was a trade unionist. He was the president of the Sawmill and Forest Workers Union. He was honorary president of GAU. You had Forbes Bonham. He was the head of the party, the General Secretary of the People's National Congress, or whatever was the head, and President General of the Guyana Labor Union. Critchlow served in the Legislative Council. IUB done, one of the big unions at that time, which we displaced in the sugar industry. So, how do I straddle? The question is, party that uphold working class philosophy and positions do not have conflict with trade unionists serving its interests within Parliament and elsewhere.
But that's what's happening now.
There has been no conflict. So when I joined the Parliament at Dr. Jagan's invitation in '92, there was no problem all the time.
No, but you have that problem now. That's why I'm asking you,
well,
how are you going to handle this new problem?
No, if you say we have that problem now, I am not hearing that there is a conflict with me in Parliament. All I'm saying, I will always uphold what we consider in GAU. The leaders of GAU, the Executive Committee of GAU, and the General Council of GAU, whatever we consider to be our position. It might not be common with other people, and they may have different views, as they have a right to have a common position. We have a right to have our common position. But we are not going to deviate. And some people who claim that, GAU is an affiliate of the PP. We have never been an affiliate of the PP. We don't have any, we are not paying them any dues. We are not required by any relationship that we have to go by certain positions and so on. And this one demonstrates there had been obviously disagreement that we met with the government. And we had been calling to meet with the government. We had been pressing for that. And they and then they finally decided to meet. We have a duty because they are the employer. We had met with Mr. Forbes Bonham, Mr. Desmond Hoyt, the president that belongs to the PPP. What else do we do? Do we abrogate our responsibility to our members and they will shun us? We can't.
If it came down to one or the other, which side of
my side is always the workers' side, and if I were to find any time that I have to deviate from representing what my General Council and Executive Committee agreed upon, then the decent thing is for me to then leave my job, because you have to always stick with your organization position. Finally mean after all the discussions take place, all the pros and cons on any matter. And you know, the last government, it is so much said now, reminding us about the threat to de-recognize us. So nobody could raise their finger and say, oh, you were not doing this before, now you are doing this. We are being accused of all these wrong things that we did. Now we are being said we're not doing enough.
In retrospect, in as much as the failure of the sugar industry preceded the last 2 years of this administration, could you have done anything differently as a union leader to make sugar more productive?
Look, first of all, you have to understand that there's a lot of incompetence, which we have been telling the last government, talking about mismanagement. This government inherited a production of 231,000 tons of sugar from 2014, because what you left in 2014, the canes you left to go, the canes you nurture, you reap it the next year, in the first and second crop. So, doing anything different from GAWU, we represent the interests of the workers. We see that their rights are protected. We see their grievances are represented and sorted out. We advance their cause. We continue to do that. Unfortunately, there was a deaf ear since this government came into office. In 2015, they awarded no increase to the workers. 2016, none. 2017, none. Despite the promise of 20% increase. All of that has to do with workers not having the commitment, workers not doing their best, and management policy in reducing their income. We pointed out an average of 230,000 workers on less last year than in the previous year. Not only trying to get an increase, but you prolong their payment by in these piece-rated jobs. And all of that has its own effect on the sugar production. So one, your agronomic practices were not in order. You were not doing the field work you're supposed to do, because cane is produced in the fields, not in the office.
Now, you had an injection of several billions of dollars.
33 billion.
Not just for this administration.
No, you had
that begun on.
But far less. Yes.
Yeah, but you had a constant multi-billion-dollar injection annually into the sugar. Do you think that was sustainable?
Well, let me say this: that you had injection in the previous government time, and we have been consistent. And if you look at it, talking about the mismanagement, and let me take last year. Year before the last year was 2017. 2016, when we look at the account, the money that they got from the sale of electricity to the national grid at Skeldon is $9.5 billion. And although the production was just 30,000 tons in 2016, we're talking about 2016 account. 2016 sale of electricity and the sale of sugar and molasses, Gaisuko didn't need a cent. Your problem was with the production of sugar, the quantity of sugar, the workforce you have, the factories you have, the tractors you have. But it's just the people were not, the management was lacking. And we told the last government, look at what you must look for. Look at your tons of sugar per hectares and your tons of canes per hectare. And that is the best yardstick for you to judge what is happening.
Okay, two quick questions.
So you ask a question with it is not sustainable, but industry, the sugar industry suffers before it rise up again. From the sugar levy time to up to when sugar levy was abandoned, billions of dollars, sugar pumped into the treasury. When the PP government took office, and before that, Mr. Greenwich will tell you that without the sugar levy, they couldn't balance the budget. So at times you help the sugar industry. We went through, people forget, we went through a bad patch in the sugar industry. 86, 87, 88, 89, 1991. When the average production was just around 165,000 tons. And Mr. Hoy didn't go that road for close and miniaturize. Except the two factories, he didn't go in a broadside way. And then we start to get recovery from 92, early 92.
Okay. Sugar is being replaced across the Caribbean. Belize, Trinidad, Barbados, they're doing away with sugar because of the non-profitability of it. Why do you think that sugar should be maintained in Guyana, given the fact that countries whose economies are stronger than ours have done away with sugar?
Alright, sugar went down in Trinidad because the PNM government, Manning, said sugar, he doesn't see sugar to be viable. We have oil. Sugar, it was doing well, it had a refinery. We are now importing about 200,000 tons of refined sugar, which Corona used to take care of. St. Kitts used to depend a lot on alien workers. A lot of sugar workers from Guyana used to go there. So they had a problem to sustain their lodging and transportation of these workers. Barbados remained in sugar up to the point, up to the level it was producing sugar all the time. And it said it will continue. Jamaica is trying to increase sugar. Belize has increased its production of sugar. And all the studies show when they withdraw the subsidy, the European Union withdraw the subsidy to the sugar producing countries in the African and Caribbean and Pacific countries. The studies show that sugar is a viable business in Guyana, and it should be maintained but be made competitive. Gaisuko obtained a loan year before the last, which they didn't bother to take from the IDB, no, the Caribbean Development Bank. And the study by the experts in the bank approved the loan for them to spend some money at IFLOT and more and Albion to promote more mechanical harvesting. So they pointed out about the viability of sugar, and they took into account other avenues of employment. So the facts are the facts. Sugar is very much alive in Jamaica because of the necessity and the dependence on sugar. Belize, it has improved. From one factory they have two factories. In fact, the workers are now quarreling that the electricity that the cane produce, they must also benefit from part of that, and not usurped by the owners of the factory, because without the bagasse they couldn't produce electricity.
One other question for you, Mr.
Yeah.
Chan. Some are saying that now that you seem to have lost confidence, particularly in the eyes of the leader of the opposition, that overtures should be made by the current administration to welcome you into its ranks because of your magnanimity. It proves now that you are more interested in the welfare of the people than in the politics. What's your take on that?
All right, that is talking about my defecting to another party. That has never been in my psyche. At my age, it should not be thinkable. Whichever government, as I did, I will continue to represent the interests of the work. I will continue to meet with those, the operatives, whoever might constitute the government. To do otherwise is to abrogate your responsibility to your members and to look at who will lose political points and who will score political points. That is when I wear my political cap. But I always have to wear my workers' cap, when I'm representing them. I always have to respect them.
How
So
would you think?
I don't see myself.
Would you if you were invited to come aboard with the current administration, invite you to come on board with them at this juncture, given your vote so much?
Thanks. You asking a lot of searching questions, you know, more than anybody. But that's all right. That's all right.
Thank you so much.
Good. Thanks.